So, you're curious about this tip-top technology? It's a very curious story indeed. It even involves a legal battle between American companies over a patent from an Argentine inventor, plus plenty of other curiosities, like a pen designed to work in space. But let's get straight to the point. The ballpoint pen, which, by the way, gets its name from the tiny ball at the tip. You might already know part of its history, but here's something most people don't. Even the inventor himself, Biro, didn't know that the pen had been invented 50 years before he patented it in 1938. Yep, the idea of using a tube with a ball at the tip to apply ink to paper dates back to an 1888 patent by an American named John Loud. His invention was designed to mark rough surfaces like leather and wood, surfaces that a fountain pen couldn't handle. But despite how innovative it was at the time, John's pen was too rudimentary for writing letters or books, for example, things that could have made it a commercial success. So the invention remained on paper for the next 50 years, until 1938. That year, a Hungarian who would later become an Argentine citizen, Laszlo Biro, filed for a patent in England, France, and the US for his version of the ballpoint pen, completely unaware of John Loud's old patent. 2 years later, in 1940, the Biro brothers, who were Jewish, fled to Argentina to escape the Nazis during World War II, but they didn't stop improving their invention. By 1943, Laszlo Biro filed a new patent for an upgraded version of the pen, a patent that was granted in Argentina and the US in 1945. With those patents secured, the Biro brothers teamed up with their friend and business partner, Maini, who was also from Hungary, to start a company in Argentina. They named it Birom, a mashup of Biro and Maine. Another interesting fact is that the financing came from none other than Agustín Pedro Justo, a former president of Argentina. He not only backed their business but also helped them escape Hungary and get their visas. Around the same time, during World War II, Biro licensed the patent to the British government. The Royal Air Force ended up producing over 30,000 of his pens because, unlike fountain pens, Biro's invention didn't leak at high altitudes during combat flights. Now you're probably wondering, wait, how did he manage to patent the ballpoint pen if John Loud had already patented a similar design? Well, it was a different era. There weren't any fancy search engines or cross-referencing systems like we have today. Since Loud's patent was 50 years earlier, it ended up going unnoticed by the patent office. That kind of thing happened all the time back then. And Biro? He had no idea John Loud even existed. Furthermore, despite some similarities, Biro's design had many differences. But if he didn't copy Loud's idea, how did he come up with it on his own? Let's say Biro was a journalist who, one day, got fed up with constantly refilling fountain pens and cleaning ink-smudged pages, so he decided to find a way to fix the problem. One day in 1930, he noticed that the ink used in newspaper printing dried quickly on paper and didn't smudge. This gave him the idea that this type of ink could be a great solution to the smudging problem. However, when he tried putting it into a fountain pen to test his hypothesis, he discovered that the ink wouldn't flow to the tip as it should because it was too viscous. Many days passed until one day, while looking out the window at a group of children playing marbles, Biro noticed something. One of the marbles, after rolling through a puddle, left a trail of water behind it. It was from this observation that he got the idea to design a tube with a small ball at the tip, one that would regulate the flow of ink onto the paper, while also reducing friction as it rolled. But for this design to work, the ink had to have just the right viscosity. It needed to flow through the tube to the ball without leaking out through the small gap. That's when he teamed up with his brother, a dentist with extensive knowledge of chemistry, who helped him develop an ink with the right viscosity for the ballpoint pen. Finally, the design was complete and ready to be patented in 1938. Soon after, the new 1945 patent would come, and Biro's pen would be licensed and sold to various companies worldwide. But two stories involving the rights to this patent would draw a lot of attention. In May 1945, two major U.S. fountain pen companies, Eversharp Company and Eberhard Faber, joined forces to purchase the exclusive rights to the Biro pen in the United States. So far, nothing unusual. The story takes a turn the following month when another American businessman, Milton Reynolds, arrives in Buenos Aires. While visiting a store in the city, he supposedly came across Biro pens and immediately recognized their sales potential. According to the story, he wasted no time. He bought a handful of them and rushed back to the United States. 4 months later, in October 1945, Reynolds Rocket pens hit the shelves of a department store in New York, completely ignoring Eversharp's patent rights, and worse, outselling them. The Reynolds pen reportedly made $100,000 in sales on its first day, which would be about $1,700,000 today. As you can imagine, this set the stage for a long legal battle between the companies, which would become known as the Pen War. The most ironic part of this whole episode is that John Loud's old patent could have invalidated everyone's claims, but apparently no one knew that at the time. Despite this, sales skyrocketed for both competitors throughout 1946, partly due to the media exposure generated by the Pen War. But something else also increased: returns due to malfunctions. Many pens wouldn't write or would leak, and you can't blame people for wanting their money back. These pens cost $12.50 each, which would be about $218 in today's money. Due to these quality issues, sales began to plummet. The price war between companies drove pen prices down to less than 50 cents each by 1948. Meanwhile, the high legal and advertising costs pushed the companies into serious financial trouble by 1951, leading Reynolds to declare bankruptcy, leaving only its French subsidiary. While these companies struggled to survive, another fountain pen company, Parker Pen, took advantage of the resurgence of fountain pens to build up funds and launch its first ballpoint pen in 1954. These pens had a large ink capacity and, most importantly, actually worked. Parker sold over 3.5 million jotters in less than a year, at prices reaching up to $8.75 each. Meanwhile, Eversharp tried to regain profitability by selling fountain pens again. But that didn't last long, and in 1957, Parker acquired the company. The story that unfolded in France was completely different. In 1945, a man named Marcel Biche bought the rights to Biro's patent in France for $2 million, dropped the H from his last name, and put the now famous Bic pen on nearly every desk in the world. Using Swiss watchmaking tools, he developed a manufacturing process that produced high-quality stainless steel balls for the pen's tip, and most importantly, at a very low cost. Another key innovation was the transparent tube design, which mimicked a wooden pencil, while also allowing users to see the ink level inside. With high quality and an affordable price, the Bic Cristal ballpoint pen quickly took over the European market, accounting for 70% of pen sales by 1958. That same year, Bic acquired Waterman Pen Company in the US, entering the North American market with a pen that sold for just 29 cents each. For comparison, Parker's pens were priced as high as $8, and Reynolds and Eversharp, which had once offered cheaper pens, were no longer in business. Today, the Bic Cristal's design remains virtually unchanged, except for two key modifications. Its ball is now made of tungsten carbide, and a small hole was added to the cap to reduce the risk of choking if accidentally swallowed by a child. In 2006, the Bic Cristal reached a major milestone of 100 billion units sold, securing a place in the Guinness World Records as the best-selling pen in history. Today, an astonishing 14 million Bic Cristal pens are sold every day worldwide. But what about the story of the space pen? During the 1960s, NASA was looking for a way to write in space since ballpoint pens required gravity to work. For a while, traditional wooden and mechanical pencils were used, but they posed a risk. If they broke, small fragments of graphite and wood could float into the air, potentially damaging equipment or even causing fires. However, contrary to popular belief, the space pen designed to solve this problem was not invented by NASA, nor did the agency invest any money into its development. It was a private sector invention that NASA later adopted. I'm talking about the Fisher AG7 pen, developed by businessman Paul Fisher and patented as the anti-gravity pen. By combining a more viscous ink with a pressurized reservoir filled with gas, such as nitrogen, the pen forced ink toward the tip. This allowed it to write upside down, in low-gravity environments, and supposedly even underwater, though who would ever need that? And it could also write in temperatures ranging from -29 degrees Fahrenheit to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. When Fisher presented the pen to NASA in 1965, they spent 3 years testing it before approving it. In 1967, they purchased 400 units at $2.95 each, less than the $3.98 charged to consumers at the time. But for Fisher, this was a major publicity opportunity, as the company could now market it as the Space Pen. The pen proved so effective that even the Soviet Union purchased 100 units in February 1969. Now, the next time you come across this pen forgotten on a desk, I'm sure you'll remember the fascinating story behind it.